Courtside Monday. Or Rib City.
Hey, Nurk, sorry to pull you away from the pile over there, guy. Jeremy, do we have you?
All right.
Hell yeah. Jeremy.
Oh, my bad.
Blazers Courtside Monday, hosted by Chris Burkhardt.
If you don't love that guy, there's something wrong with you.
Starts now.
Once again, here's Adam Silver.
With the third pick in the 2023 NBA Draft, the Portland Trail Blazers select Scoot Henderson from Marietta, Georgia, in the NBA G League's Team Ignite.
And there you have it. That was the news on Thursday night. The Blazers, sitting with the third pick in the NBA draft, drafted Scoot Henderson of the G League Ignite. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Courtside Monday, as always, on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. And boy, howdy, do we have things to get to tonight. We have content on content. Because as I said, and as you just heard, Scoot Henderson drafted with the third overall pick by your Portland Trail Blazers. And that may end up spelling the end of the Damian Lillard tenure in Portland. What does it mean for the current star of the franchise moving forward? We will get into that on the show. We're also going to talk plenty about the rookies that will be representing your Portland Trail Blazers this coming season, because it wasn't just Scoot that was drafted. Also, Kris Murray out of Iowa, brother of Kings forward Keegan Murray, will be a Blazer, as well as Rayan Rupert. I'm going to do my best to do that one correctly. I loved his pronunciation at the introductory press conference, where he obviously did it with his French accent because he's French. And then he's like, you can just say Rayan Rupert or Rupert. It's hard to say with an American accent, as he butchers it trying to do it with an accent, which was quite funny. But the Blazers added them, and now they are at a crossroads, friends. They are at a crossroads, and what are they going to do moving forward? Your guess is as good as mine. Reports coming out today from Chris Haynes that this afternoon, Damian Lillard sat down with Joe Cronin and the front office to discuss what the next move is. And we have not heard anything since that initial tweet from Haynes. And honestly, you know how these things work. Let's just be completely honest. He tweeted that. Let's go back here on Twitter. Twitter has timestamps. So yeah, he tweeted that. That was not 4 hours ago, 6 hours ago. He tweeted that 6 hours ago. It was, quote, Portland Trail Blazers star Damian Lillard and his agent Aaron Goodwin are meeting with the team today to discuss the franchise's direction, league sources tell NBA on TNT. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean that the meeting was starting right then and there, because earlier this afternoon, Joe Cronin was at a press conference where the team announced the branding of their new G League team. What was that branding? Well, we'll get into that a little bit later. That's called a tease, even though most of you have already heard it anyway. Stay here. I'll break it to you. But he was at a press conference for that, so you don't know exactly when the meetings with Damian Lillard started. They could have started at 1 o'clock. They could have started at noon. They could have started at a time after that. But the point is, it is very, very likely that wherever they decided to have said meeting, whether it was at the practice facility or out to lunch or what have you, that it's still going on right now. This is not the type of meeting where Damian Lillard walks in, Joe Cronin's at the table, and he says, hey, Dame, have a seat. All right, hey, we're trading you. Bye. We'll talk to you later. It's not the type of meeting where he just comes in and, hey, we're going to keep you. We're going to try to build around you. Hey, talk to you later. No, there is back and forth going on right now, Shacker and Co. and Rip City, everybody listening. That was only directed at you because you're the only one across the window. Don't feel obligated and worried. You're like, oh, God, he talked to me. I saw that jump. But the point is, this might take a minute because there's a lot to go over here. Because it's not just simple. It's not as simple as just telling Dame, hey, we're going to move on from you. It's not as simple as Dame saying, hey, I want out. There's so many levels to this. And I get where so many people are on this spells the end. You have to move on from Dame. It makes sense. But there's so many people here who just do not want that to happen. I think there's a large section of this fan base who would rather this team do their best to build around Dame, even though it sends a mixed message, and get into the playoffs and be competitive. Doesn't mean they're a contender, but they're competitive. Because that means Dame stays here. And realistically, I cannot think of another Trailblazers player who has had the social impact that Damian Lillard has had on this city. That's why so many people of the newer fan era, the young generation, when you ask them who's the greatest Blazer of all time, so many people do not hesitate to say Damian Lillard. And then you get the people who have been around for forever, since day one, or young kids like me who were born in the 80s, who, yes, I didn't like live through it totally because, I was 7 years old. But I think Clyde is probably the most talented, greatest Blazer of all time. You got a lot of people who go to the Bill Walton wagon, right? Oh, it was Bill. You had to be there. He's the greatest center this team's ever had, one of the greatest centers to ever play this game. And you're not lying. But then you have Dame, and you have the Dame crew. And the difference between Bill, yes, Bill won you a championship, get it. Clyde took you to the NBA Finals, I get it. But Dame, there has just been this crazy, weird connection between he and the city, between he and the fan base, and that loyalty that he's preached since day one. That's why I think if they're having this conversation, it is going into the wee hours, and they might not have a resolution tonight. It'd be, hey, okay, let's reconvene again tomorrow. And you know what? Everyone was dunking on Joe Cronin for him saying, I haven't talked to Damian Lillard since Tuesday. Let's just be, I want to be completely honest here. Dame is doing his stuff in Paris. So you know what? I'm going to let you just do that without having to worry about anything that's going on. But when you come back, I'm just going to sit you in a room and we're going to talk man to man. We're going to hash this out. We're going to have a conversation. This isn't a conversation to be had via text while you're halfway around the world. This is not a conversation to be had over a phone call for the 5-minute breaks between fashion shows. This is something you have to talk about in person, get our feelings off our chest. You can't text it. You can't do it on the phone. This has to be in person. So kudos to him on that one. He said he's been in contact with Aaron Goodwin. I get that too. But this conversation here needed to happen. So again, now you're just in a tough spot, Blazer fans, because the guy that you have connected with and built this bond with more so than, again, arguably any other Blazer ever. Because when everyone does go to Clyde was the best. He was the most talented player they ever, and I think so. I personally think that just talent for talent, Clyde, more talented than Dame. I don't know how many people would argue otherwise. Oh, but, all-time leading scorer. Yeah, the propensity of the three-point shot will do that. But I don't think Clyde connected with this city quite as well as Dame did. Or does. He still does. I won't talk about Dame in the past tense yet. He's still here in town. But Clyde didn't connect the same way. Got to the end of the career and writing was on the wall. And you know what? I want to go to Houston. I want to go to my hometown, the town that I do connect with on that level. Dame, he's an Oakland guy. But everywhere he's went, it's always been about that's his city. That's the badge he wears, whether it be Oakland, Ogden, or Portland, Oregon. The letter O for a reason, right? So that means something. And I think that's why with the current situation that the Blazers are in, fans are having such a hard time. Because it's easy to let go if the player doesn't want to be there. The team quickly soured on LaMarcus Aldridge once he left, right? Fans were like, nope, don't like him. He said he wanted to be the greatest Blazer of all time, became a free agent, signed elsewhere. And that's a tough one, too, because he had the ability, could have signed elsewhere. You didn't get rid of him. He walked on you, so I get it. But now you're in a situation where if Dame asks for a trade, every fan who has loved him since day one is not going to blame him. They're going to point the fingers at management and say that you gave him every reason to leave instead of giving him every reason to stay. Now, I truly believe this when I say that I do not think Damian Lillard wants to leave. I don't. I think Chad echoed the same sentiment earlier, and he said so to me, and I've talked to plenty of people. I do not think Damian Lillard wants to leave. In his perfect world, this team is competitive. They've built around him the way he wants, and he gets to retire a Trailblazer. Play his entire career here, and I still think that's what he wants. And that's probably what he's preaching to Joe right now. What are the ways that we can get this done? And the thing is, fans, before we all go all doom and gloom, I still think there are ways to turn this around. I still think there are ways to get Dame on board. And everybody automatically says, oh, Scoot can't play it with Dame. Can't. You haven't even seen them on the court together yet. Oh, but, Scoot can't play off ball. I implore you. How many games of the G League Ignite did you watch? Were you a connoisseur of G League content? Possibly not. And here's the thing: if he can't play off the ball, I have faith in a coaching staff's ability to teach a 19-year-old to do so, or 20-year-old in this case. That's your job as a coach. Find ways. Dame's the old dog. You don't need to teach the old dog new tricks. Everyone says automatically play him off the ball, but I think Chauncey tried to do that last year early in the season. It worked in spurts, but it just didn't work the way they wanted. It's not his bread and butter. Watch how he moves off the ball versus how Steph moves off the ball. Two very different players. Steph makes it work. In fact, it's probably Steph's strength. Dame, not so much. He thrives with the ball in his hand, as does Scoot. But there's ways to make that work. How so? Well, we'll get into that as the show goes on. Except the holiday's taking it away from me next Monday, Shacker.
Yeah, it's a 2-day holiday for the 4th of July. It gets 2 days this year.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Has it always been that way?
If it falls on a Tuesday, you usually get Monday off.
For 40 years, has it been that way? I don't seems
know.
Like a new thing.
4th of July all the calendars should be built around 4th of July, and it should just always be on like a Tuesday, so you get the 4-day weekend to celebrate freedom, baby.
America.
All right. Before we dive fully into this idea of what the Blazers could do around Dame, let's head out to those phone lines. We do have, looks like Ramsey in Aloha on line one. Ramsey, welcome into Courtside. What do you have for me?
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to kind of more or less say, I'm very happy we have our 3 picks, and I want to keep them. And, this whole idea that we're going to take Damian Lillard and build a championship team in the next couple of years, I'm just not buying that. To be a championship competitive team, whether you're in the finals or win it, you got to be a pretty special team like we were in the 77 Blazers when we won the championship. Clyde and Porter in the early 90s, Pippen and Rasheed in the early 2000s. And we don't have anything even close to being that special at this point. Now, if we were a team that was, good right now, let's say like the Memphis Grizzlies, where they were expected to do a long run into the playoffs, and they had this 3rd pick, and they had Anthony Simons, then I could see you making that next move to acquire somebody to bring you to that top level. But we are so far below that, to me, it would be just like throwing that pick away if you traded it, because we just don't have anything close to building to a championship level. And I don't think that's even possible. We don't have enough in our arsenal to make that happen in the next, 2 or 3 years, in Damon's window that he has here.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't understand the people that want to make this trade. I know they want to keep Lillard here for his entire career, but I'm more in the wanting, to 3 to 5 years, try to build a championship team. Cause that's what it's about, and I think it'd be best for both, the Blazer fans and Damian Lillard to actually part at this point.
Yeah. And well, here's the thing, Ramsey. First off, thanks for the call. And I'm going to tell you this much. I agree with you. I think if you're trying to build this team moving forward, getting rid of what is Scoot Henderson right now would not be wise. It would not be wise. And if you unlocked all of the first-round picks that you could get from Chicago, and then you turn around and you trade everything that you can, well, now you don't have picks. You don't have a lot of talent. It's hard. It's really, really hard. You need that youth. The success that you did have over the last 10 years, right? That run to the Western Conference Finals, the multiple trips to the playoffs, those were on the backs of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, who were what, Ramsey? 2 guys you drafted, 2 guys you built. To your point, very much so to your point. So I get what you're laying down. Now, I do want to argue the other side of that, because I have gone back and forth, if I'm being completely honest, because I get the fan sentiment and the love for Damian Lillard. I get that. Selfishly, I don't want him to go anywhere, because Damian Lillard is good at basketball. He makes watching basketball fun. And in my time covering this league, he is in the small group of players that I've been fortunate enough to be in a building and watch them go into God mode and take over to the point that nobody could stop them. I've seen Kobe do it. I've seen Dame do it. I've seen Seth Curry do it. I've seen LeBron James do it. Those are the ones I've seen in person take a game over to the point where they were playing on another level outside of every other person. I've been to games where Giannis came close, Jokic came close. I know they've done that. They've had those games too. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying those are the ones that I have seen in person do it at a game I was at. Small group. So Dame makes basketball special. It takes a certain kind of special to drop 70 points, right? Absolutely it does. But if you don't trade him, you become hard pressed to put together a championship team at this point because of just the way the money's lined up. But for all of those who want to know how it could happen, let's talk through that for a minute. Because everyone is saying that there is no middle ground. And you know what? I think there is. And I think there's ways that you could realistically make this team better if you really think about it. Now, there was a trade earlier today with the Atlanta Hawks with a player that I like a lot in John Collins. And he was traded to Utah. Maybe Utah turns around and flips him again. Maybe he becomes a contender for the Blazers, right? Because he was sent to Atlanta for nothing. Nothing. Rudy Gay and some second-round picks. And Atlanta needed that because they were way too close to what is going to be the new super max tax threshold thing with the new CBA that's going to take effect in a few days. They cleared a lot of money off the books in that move. They still are in financial hell, but they're in a little bit of a better position, right? Now, there was people who argued, why didn't the Blazers get in on that? Because if the Blazers got in on that, the only thing they could have done in that move was trade Anthony Simons for John Collins. And I like John Collins a lot. I think he just needed a change of scenery to reboost and kind of get back to what we saw early in his career. And we'll see what happens now here in Utah or otherwise. But I wouldn't have gave up Anthony Simons for him. And people ask, well, you fill the hole you need because power forward, this and that. Yeah, but if his going rate from Atlanta was Rudy Gay and second-round picks, and if you trade Anthony Simons for him, you are overselling big time. The house was on the market for $400,000, and you walked up to the broker and said, "You know what? I got $1 million. I'll give you $1 million." And they said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, not a problem." So that'd be an oversell. But then there are moves, Ramsey and everyone else, that do make sense within that vacuum to where you would give up an Anthony Simons for. So let's just start with one that matches up financially, okay? So I'm going to look at Minnesota for a second. And this is a name that I know people go, I don't want that guy. But Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns in Minnesota, up and down a little bit. They've obviously realized that you can't play him and Gobert together too much because they've tried to play him at power forward next to Gobert center, but Karl Anthony Towns is center, man. He needs to play center. Put him at center. They just re-signed Naz Reid to that big deal, so now they just got a ton of money locked into centers. Okay? So then you look at Minnesota and you go, okay, financially, Ant and Nasir Little make that work. So there's the base. Let's start there. And maybe you can get Chicago to unlock their picks back to you. You can give them some, whatever they covet. I don't know what it is. But I'm just saying, let's just start there. Second round picks are the going rate for just about everybody right now. So I'll give you Ant. You can have Ant and Ant together now. You can go with Gobert. Give me Karl Anthony Towns. Now, all the people who poo-poo, I don't want Karl Anthony Towns. You talk about putting talent next to Dame, guys. That's what you want to do, right? Well, Karl Anthony Towns is a 2-time All-League, 3-time All-Star, 20-10 guy. He's better than Yusuf Nurkic. So you go get Karl Anthony Towns, and now you have Yusuf Nurkic, and you can send Yusuf Nurkic out, and you can try to bring in that small forward, power forward that you think you need. Okay? Maybe it was your John Collins. I would have taken John Collins at the 4 all day long. Don't get me wrong. Maybe you still get in with Utah because they can turn around and flip him. They can't aggregate him, meaning they can't send you John Collins and Lowry Markkanen or something like that, but they could still flip him. So you could send Ant and Nasir out. You can end up sending Nurk and Keon out with your assets, and you still have your young guys. And now let's just, for all intents and purposes, the Blazers go out and they start a lineup that is Dame, Shaden, whoever they get at small forward to fill that void. And maybe he wants more than the MLE. Maybe it's a sign and trade. Blazer fans don't like him, but Dylan Brooks. Give me Dylan Brooks at $16 million a year. I'll send you Yusuf Nurkic. Like little things like this, right? Or a 3-team deal, whatever it is. Okay? And then Jeremy Grant, Karl Anthony Towns. That's a better starting 5 than you've had in a minute. You got good defense. You got Karl Anthony, whatever. But now you've put that, if Dame wants a star, you just went and put a star next to him. Okay? Regardless of what you think of Karl Anthony Towns, we can go down that road later, but you put a star next to him. You put a star next to him. And you did it, Ramsey, without getting rid of Scoot. Now, Blazer fan has noted for quite a bit of time here that Damian Lillard and the Blazers have never had an adequate backup point guard. It's either been CJ, who was their starting 2, or Ant, who was their starting 2, or outside of that, it was guys like, let's see, Tim Quarterman was one. Tim Frazier was another. Sabaz Napier was good, but he was also not great. Eric Maynard was here for a minute. You had Seth Curry, but yes, Seth Curry's not a 1. He's a 2, so that doesn't count. Last year, Skylar Mays set the team on fire. Fans loved him. Oh, bring him back. No, well, the thing is, Skylar Mays, maybe he'll latch on somewhere, but the reason he looked good is because you just saw what could happen with just a ball-handling guard on this team. And guess what? You just went and drafted one who was better than anything you're going to be able to go get on the open market with your limited funds. So there's your backup guard for your... Oh, you don't use a number 3 pick to have a backup guard. In year 1, I don't care where he plays. Just get him on the court, right? And again, he's 20 years old, and I trust that a coaching staff can teach a 20-year-old to play off ball if that's not his strength. So you find ways to play him next to Dame. Find ways. Also, he's pretty good defensively. Scoot is. So there's a way to get on the court right there. You also have Kris Murray, who I think is a guy who can get on the court this year for a lot of teams. Very, very versatile. And the fact that he's 22 years old, lots of ball behind him. in college. He's not coming out. He's not like Shaedon Sharpe, as Chauncey Billups said. Shaedon, the last game he played when he got to Portland was high school. Not with Kris Murray. With Kris Murray, you got a guy who just played 4 years of ball at Iowa. So he knows what he's doing. The learning curve's not steep at all. So now you build around the edges, figure out what you're going, and now you roll this team out there with Dame, with Karl Anthony Towns, with whatever piece you traded Nurk for, with whatever piece you used your MLE on, whatever. And you just go and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But to me, I think trading Dame right now without seeing if anything you have works, why not? Take the risk. If it doesn't work, then you can move on and you can build around a Scoot and Shaedon. But that might be the plan regardless, so just see what happens. Just see what happens. And I got Michael Shacker over here smiling at me because he's on team I don't want to see Dame go. And that's fair.
Yeah, it's been a 4-hour block of trade Dame shows today.
And I'm just trying to bring the other side here because here's just full disclosure, guys. I don't know what's going to happen. I have some insight to what I think could happen. I do feel like the writing is on the wall here that Damian Lillard might be gone. But if you're stuck in the escape room, you got to try to find every viable option to find all the clues and figure out where to go. When you come to the fork in the road, take it, as Yogi Berra says. Well, I'm weighing the options here to see what fork I need to take. If you want to chime in, 503-248-0620. That is where David in Salem has been waiting patiently on the line. David, welcome into Courtside. What do you got for me?
Hey, Chris, it's good to be with you and Shacker. I'm just thinking about this. I was doing some research before our call, and I found out that the salary cap going into 23-24 is $136 million. The luxury tax is $165 million. And Damian Lillard is a supermax player. He's going to make $45.6 million going into the 23-24 season. And he's worth it. He's a great player. But how do you, with that kind of taking up to almost 21% of the salary cap going into the next season, how are you going to put enough quality players like John Collins, you mentioned earlier in your radio program, and people like that are pretty high-paid players, and they were dumped basically for their salary. How are you going to pay them to keep them around to even go forward? That's the question nobody's really dealing with, and I'm not a capologist or anything like that, but I think it's really interesting to discuss that because I'd love to see all those players. I think the Blazers, we're looking at John Collins, people like, Blazers Edge have been talking about him for years, and players just like you mentioned tonight, but how do you put good players like that around somebody that's making a supermax contract going into the new salary restrictions that basically the NBA is going to put forward? Well, that's a real good question.
Yeah, well, David, it's about spending the money on the proper player to balance out that roster, right? So that's where like that $24 million, which is about what John Collins is making, would be well spent on the Portland roster because, again, he's filling that position of need because he's playing forward for you. He's playing power forward, good rebounder, good shot maker, super athletic. And you take that money from Anthony Simons, who's making his $24 million a year to play guard at a position now you are super locked up in and has never matched well next to Dame. So it's all about balance there. But then it's the key of how you make the trades happen, right? Like I said earlier. Because John Collins was traded for Rudy Gay and second-round picks. So if you trade Anthony Simons, despite the fact they're making the same amount of money, it's an overpay if you're to believe the true value of that Anthony Simons has on the open market. So you're right. It does become hard because now you have to balance trying to get the player in with the money versus talent acquisition, trying to not give away a ton of talent when you're trying to bring some in. So you're right. It does become difficult. But again, there are ways to get it done. Now, because the thing is, if you are a team and you want to win, you don't give two rats behinds about the tax. You're going to want to pay it because you want to win. That's what Golden State did. Now they have to figure out what they want to do now because Draymond's a free agent and they still have a lot of guys to pay. But David, and thank you very much for your call. And it's a very, very good point. I don't want to diminish that at all. I just think there's ways to do it. It's just, you got to balance the money, and the money has to go where you need it the most. If you have a leaky faucet or a leaky pipe, you don't go buy the new sink first. You fix the pipes. Fix the pipes. And then you can go buy a new sink. But if you buy a new sink and the pipes are still busted, doesn't matter because it ain't running. And in this case, Anthony Simons is your nice sink, and all the other holes you have in your starting roster, like at forward, that you've had for years, that's your busted pipe. Got to fix that first. And that's where that balance comes into play, David. Thank you very much for the call. It's a good point. It's a good point. You got to factor those things in. And Utah was able to get that deal done because, you know what? Danny Ainge went in there clean. Play Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. You ever play those GTA games, Shacker?
Yeah, I was an adult when that game came out.
I know. Well, I was a teenager. Something like that. I don't know. I played through it so many times, I can't remember when it was actually out. All I know is that whenever I play those games, I automatically cycle to the rock station anytime I get in one of the vehicles.
Yeah, there needs to be a setting where it's automatically on the rock station when you steal the car.
No, that's not realistic. The game got to be steeped in realism, like the realism of pulling a rocket launcher out of your back pocket.
Or if you steal a car from an old person and they have a...
you're listening to the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Like, that's the mod we need.
They're making a game right now. They're probably recording the voice talent as we speak.
Oh, my gosh. I got to send an email. I got to get on this. Courtside Monday featured in GTA 6.
Why can't the iHeart app work with Jay so you could listen to live Courtside Monday while playing Grand Theft Auto?
Get some AI on it. They'll figure it out.
And they're working with Fortnite. Maybe it's time to branch out.
They'll figure it out. Now, on Thursday, Shacker, the Trailblazers, they selected Scoot Henderson, Kris Murray, and Rayan Rupert to be the newest Trailblazers. Now, they will all, in all likelihood, all three of them end up being on the main roster, to use a wrestling term. And they will not be on the bluff, on the campus of UP, where the Blazers G League team will call home. But we don't have to call them the Blazers G League team anymore because they have their own branding, their own logo, their own name now. It was announced today in a press conference at Chiles Center that Joe Cronin attended, by the way. He's been busy. That the Rip City Remix will be the Blazers G League team. Now, people, this is the world we live in, Shacker. You just went through it for 3 hours, okay? The world we live in. Everybody like to just poo-poo everything. Poo-poo everything, right? They are monkeys. They got it in their hand, and they're just looking for something to hurl it at. Oh, new shirt, poo-poo that. Oh, new logo, poo-poo that. You know what? Just have fun. Because you know what? I saw that logo. I'm like, you know what? That's cool. That's cool. It's like a throwback. It's like music inspired, so it looks like an old vinyl disc, but it's also mixes in the pinwheel on it. So you got the half red, the half white. It's in the older red and cream color versus the just straight white, to reminiscent of the old 70s teams that played in there. Remake a throwback to the music heyday of Portland, which I don't know if that was a thing, but whatever. It's cool. It's different. Rip City Remix. It's fun. I don't like living in a world where we just poo-poo everything new that comes out. Enjoy it.
Not every team needs to be named after an animal.
Right. Or, oh, my gosh, they could have named them the Portland Owls. No, come on. Rip City Remix is fun. They got Dwight out here who gets mad at the use of the term Rip City. Nobody even knows what that means outside of Portland. Yeah, but who cares? No one in L.A. needs to know what Rip City means because it ain't for L.A. No one in New York needs to know what Rip City means because it ain't for New York. If it wasn't for the fact that New York was such a famous city, no one would know what the Big Apple was, right? Come on. What's Orlando's nickname? What's their motto? Huh? What's Oklahoma City's motto, Shacker? Huh? Call in 503-248-0620. Tell me what the motto for Oklahoma City is. Who cares? Because it ain't for Portland, it's for Oklahoma City. So who cares if nobody knows what Rip City means? When everyone tried to put these out here, come on, Grind City, no one really knows what that means outside of Memphis. They know it's a thing now, but like, what does it truly mean to the Memphis Grizzlies? You don't know unless you're a Memphis Grizzly fan. Clutch City, Buzz City, everyone went with the cities. Rip City is ours, man. It doesn't have to be known for everybody else. So Rip City Remix
Nation
gets my vote of approval. Now I do have to point out, friend of the show, my former boss, coworker, good friend of mine, Peter Sokach. You might know him. He's ran the radio gamut for a while. He threw us in a group chat. AI picks the name of the NBA G League team. Listen to some of these. AI would have named them the Portland Pioneers, the Oregon Thunder. I like this one. The Rose City Rookies. It's kind of fun. The Portland Phoenix. That's boring. Bridge City Ballers, though. That's a G League name right there. Rip City Rebels. The Stumptown Swishers. The Portland Powerhouse. The Rose City Rampage. Man, I like these. PDX Ballers. Trailblazers Uprising. Rip City Development. AI might be better at picking names than humans. Some of those were pretty bad.
Is it just one computer, or does a bunch of computers brainstorm?
They get into a room after lunch and they have a meeting, just like Damian Lillard. And I almost said Neil Olshey. Yikes. And Joe Cronin did today. Now, before we go, the music's going to hit here in just a second. It is almost time to go. But I will say that the latest update on Twitter coming out, just saw this a few minutes ago from Bill Oram. Then I saw it echoed by Sean Highkin, is that the Blazers have issued a statement. Well, Blazers GM Joe Cronin has issued a statement. And in that statement, he says that he met with Damian Lillard and agent Aaron Goodwin this afternoon. And, quote, "We had a great dialogue. We remain committed to building a winner around Dame." So there you have it.
Were they wrong? Was Chad and Dwight wrong today?
No, because that's going to be the messaging until a trade happens. Like, if Dame is to be traded, they are going to say this nonstop until the trade happens. We were committed, but the trade came. We were committed, but he asked out. If you say we're committed, and then eventually he asks out, you're just trying to save face so you aren't the bad guy. That's what's going on. But again, you can take it for what it is. Maybe that is a sign that they continue to want to build around the man. I'll take it. I know you. I know you're over there. You don't want him to go anywhere.
Yeah. It felt like today was the last day we could consider him a Portland Trailblazer, even though July 9th is the day.
That is right. Keep in mind, as Shacker just pointed out, July 9th is when he can be traded because of the no trade clause that he has. Now, he doesn't have the no trade clause like Bradley Beal, but you cannot be traded for a calendar year after signing an extension, which he did last July. So he cannot be traded until July 9th. And free agency starts, this weekend. So what does Joe Cronin do? What does he finagle? Who does he trade? Who goes out? Who comes in? Because the next 10-ish days, 14 days, 2 weeks roughly 2 weeks. This could be the most pivotal in the future of Damian Lillard. All right, fans, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I had fun. I hope you had fun too. Hit me up on the Twitter machine at Chris J. Burkhardt. We'll continue the conversation all night long. Rip City, I love you.